Chapter 35. Her Fight. When the happily married couple finished their activities, Naruto laid there smiling while falling asleep. It was unfortunate that he did this though, because his wife had her own plan. As he was almost asleep, there was a low whistling sound making his eyes shoot open. He knew that sound, then looked to see his wife looking at him with pain in her eyes. His body was unable to move. Tayayu, what are you doing? She pulled out the scroll that he had put all of his supplies in, then looked at him. The redhead just stared at him as she retrieved her things. Tayayu looked at her husband. This isn't your fight, Naruto-kun. I will come back and release you when I finish what she started. He went to spike his chakra until she slapped a chakra suppression seal on him. Not this time. Naruto just stared at her. You can still have her, but let me deal with the guy. Tayayu shook her head. No, he is mine as well. I have a score to settle with both of them. The redhead went to walk out, then he growled, we are supposed to be in things like this together. That made her freeze and look back at him. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. He continued to growl, if you think this is going to hold me back, you're wrong. I will break free and I will be there. Tayayu. Said woman had to smile a little bit at that, then sighed, please, give me this. If you stay away, I will let you think about having pain to yourself. Naruto just watched as she left, and he started to struggle to try and move but couldn't. He started to growl again as he looked at the ceiling and closed his eyes to focus. She may have restricted his chakra, but his training with the wind had produced great results. It took him a while, approximately 10 minutes, to get the energy focused correctly. Then he tore the seal and pushed his chakra through his coils and broke her genjutsu. He quickly leapt off the bed and put on his gear. I am sorry, Tayayu-chan, but I can't let you do this alone. 15 minutes earlier with Tayayu. Tayayu easily infiltrated the compound after putting the guards to sleep with genjutsu. Tayayu looked around the house, then pulled out her kunai and moved against the wall quietly before looking around. There wasn't any noise and the house was dark, so the most reasonable place to look would be the bedroom for the two targets. The redhead stayed close to the wall to conceal her movements until she got to the master bedroom. The woman clutched her knife in anger as she looked at the door. She pushed it open a little to see them both laying there, completely defenseless. Tayayu quietly moved into the room, then put her hand in her pouch to pull out some wires. She used the jutsu Naruto had taught her and made some shadow clones to quickly tie the two to the bed. When the two targets felt the constraint of metal on them, they both opened their eyes. They looked down but couldn't make out the target before the shadow spoke with a feminine voice, I have waited for this for a long time. Tia and Taki both laid there before Taki spoke, Who the hell are you? Do you know who I am? If you do anything more I will have you killed. Tayayu stepped into the light from the moon to look at the two of them, you both already tried that. The two just stared at each other in disbelief before Tia spoke, Tayayu. The kunoichi didn't reply more of only shook with anger. She pulled out her kunai again as she looked at them. I have been waiting for this, the day that I kill you both. She pulled back the kunai until suddenly the door came crashing down and there stood her blonde-haired husband, Tayayu. Tayayu stared at him. Naruto-kun, you realize I am going to kick your ass for this, right? Said man just gave her a small smile. I know, but like I said, this is something we are supposed to do together. We are supposed to go through everything together till death do us part, remember? She smiled at him, then there was a laughing sound. Both looked over at Tia, who was laughing in the bed. Tayayu stared at her, then her mother spoke up, I can't believe it, you got married. I can't believe someone was stupid enough to marry you. Tayayu flinched a bit at the comment before Naruto came and stood behind her. It's okay, she doesn't know the real you. That's reserved for us and our daughters. Again there was laughing. You have kids. Oh sweet Kami, this is great. Someone like you with kids. You couldn't even take care of a cat when you were little. Tayayu glared at her mother with tears in her eyes. I am a good mother. Naruto put Tayayu behind him as he looked at them. I want some answers, but first I need Tayayu to leave the room. Tayayu looked at him. No. They are mine. I am the one who gets to kill them, not you. He smiled and kissed her cheek. I know, and you will be, but these questions are things you won't want to know about. I always get my answers and you won't want to know them. She stayed there. Too bad. I am staying. The blonde Jinchuriki stared at her. Koi, please. The redhead just glared at him. You didn't listen to me, so why should I listen to you? Naruto gave a sigh, then looked over at Tia. My first question is, what really happened to Tayuya's father? His wife looked at him with confusion, then looked over at Tia. The woman was just staring intensely at him. He died of fever. Naruto shook his head. No, I talked to Ba-chan. She was in the land of Earth during the fever breakout, 2 years after Tayuya's father died. Now, you have one more chance to answer me before I start to make things painful for you. The woman didn't answer, so Naruto put his hand up and started to draw out the air in her lungs. Her eyes widened as she gasped for air but couldn't get any. Naruto stared at her. It's impossible to breathe unless I permit you to. Now you will answer my questions or I will make it even more painful for you. He put his hand down and Tia took a deep breath to regain her breath. She stared at him. I want my answers now. Tia stared at him. Fine, I killed him. I poisoned his meal and she was supposed to go with him. He was always a softie when it came to her and she didn't like what I made that night, so he said she didn't have to. It ruined my plans to marry Taki, but I tried to fix it a couple years later. She seems to have been persistent not to die. Naruto stared at the woman. That is because she was destined to be with me. Is he really the reason that you stranded her? She nodded her head and his eyes darted to Taki. You couldn't just adopt and be a caring father figure. The man stared at him. Fuck you. Naruto lifted his arm and did the same process that he did to Tia to Taki. Naruto just stared at him, then lowered his arm. Answer me. He shook his head. No, I don't give a shit if you kill me. Naruto smiled. Oh, I won't kill you right away. If you don't answer me, then I will just let Tayuya extract the answers for us. Taki shot a glance over at Tayuya, who pulled out a kunai basically just off of instinct since her mind was still in shock. Taki looked at her, then over at Naruto. Fine, no, I wouldn't allow it. It would be frowned upon by the other political figures. I had a reputation to keep, and if Tia wanted a child I could have provided her with one. After that one though, she didn't want another. Naruto looked at the two of them. You both disgust me. All right, Tayuya-chan, they are all yours. She came and stood in front of him to look at him. Thank you, Naruto-kun. The blonde Jinchuriki just smiled. At her. Does this mean I am off that hook? She smiled as she still had tears. No way in hell. Tayuya quickly turned and threw a kunai into Taki's throat before looking at Tia. She looked back at her husband, then held out her hand. He knew what she wanted and reached into his pouch and pulled out a small vial. Tayuya grabbed it, then walked over to Tia and roughly grabbed her jaw and forced her mouth open before Naruto opened the vial for her. Tayuya looked at her. This is for Tu-san. She poured the whole vial down Tia's throat. Tayuya watched as the woman gagged on the poison, then looked at Naruto. Okay, we can go home to our daughters now. Tayuya went to walk past him until he grabbed her arm and pulled him to his chest. He just held her there, trying to comfort her. Tayuya stood there motionless for a moment, then put her arms around him. The man just held her. It's okay, Tayuya-chan, you don't have to hold everything in anymore. Something rare happened that night. His wife cried in his arms. The part that wasn't rare was the threatening if he ever spoke a word about it. He rubbed her back for her as she let it all out, then he picked her up and sunshined them out of the capital before he started to walk back home with her in his arms, smiling the whole time. It took them a day and a half to get home since they could use chakra going back, and quickly retrieved their daughters. The first thing that the red-headed woman did when she saw her daughters was wrap them both up in a hug. Naruto stood there smiling as he watched the scene, then looked at the 4 bodyguards he had enlisted. Were there any issues? Gaara shook his head. No, I think that when they saw us arrive they decided against anything. Temari had sensed that we were always being watched though, Anbu, I am assuming. I think we should consider that Tsunade-sama does not have as much control over the village as we originally presumed. Naruto nodded head before smiling at them. Thank you for watching over my girls for me. Though Tsunade-bachan doesn't know, this mission had a lot of person undertones to our family. There were unresolved issues in our family that needed to be corrected. The blonde man watched as his wife pulled her daughters closer to her, then Naruto showed their friends out. When he came back he saw his wife looking at her daughters. Mommy has to ask you both something and I want the utmost honesty, understand? Makoto and Kari both nodded their heads. Tayuya looked at them, then seemed to be choking on her words. She took a deep breath, then looked at them. Am I A good mom. Naruto was looking at her with concern. He wondered how deep her psychological scars really went with her and how much deeper they had just went. He didn't want her in the room when he asked the questions, but he knew her too well. It was the only chance to get the answers, and she wasn't going to leave. There was no way he could get the answers without her there. Naruto started to wonder how much worse he had made his wife's condition. Both girls smiled, then hugged Tayayu. Makoto pulled back first. You're the best mom imaginable. Carrie then pulled back and smiled. No one has a better mommy than we do, right daddy? Naruto smiled, then came and leaned down next to Tayayu. No one is better girls. Now why don't you go take your things upstairs so I can talk to your mom? Both of the girls nodded and ran upstairs, then Naruto pulled her to him. Tayayu, don't start comparing yourself to her. Don't you ever compare yourself to her in any way, do you understand me? If you do, I will tell everyone about how you actually have a soft side. She pulled away from him and glared. You wouldn't. He smirked and got close to her. I think that I would, so I guess you will just have to never, and I mean never, compare yourself to her. Do you understand me? Tayayu stared at her husband as he held his confident smirk, then she started to glare. Ass. He kissed her quickly. I love you too. He stood and offered her his hand before pulling her up to him, then smiled as she smacked his cheek lightly. I understand, but don't think I have forgotten that I still need to kick your ass. Naruto laughed, then smiled at her. Bring it on, dear. She smiled and was about to dive at him until they heard a scream from upstairs. Naruto quickly ran up the stairs to see Carrie in the corner with a cut on her arm. He looked up to see an Anbu member and quickly lifted his hand and flung the Anbu member into the wall with the wind. Tayayu came in and looked at Carrie and her arm, then Naruto looked around. Makoto. Tayayu quickly flung open the closet and looked under the bed but didn't find her. Tayayu looked at Naruto and shook her head, making him growl before Carrie spoke up. Someone with eyes like hers took her daddy. Naruto growled. Sasuke Uchiha, so that makes you Suigetsu. Tayayu went and pulled off the mask to see him standing there. Naruto's eyes turned crimson as he glared. Tayayu, get Carrie out of this room. She went to protest but saw that he wasn't going to argue with her, that there was not any room for debating. She picked up Carrie and Sunshine to Tsunade to get her healed as Naruto continued to stand there. Where is my daughter? He didn't answer, then he smirked. You don't know how much I am going to enjoy this. Suigetsu didn't flinch as Naruto stared at him. I heard your body is fused with water. Did you know that water has a lot of oxygen in it? He smirked. Let's see how it feels when I extract all that oxygen from you very, very slowly. The next sound was Suigetsu screaming loudly as he pulled the air out. Where is my daughter? He groaned. Uchiha, compound. He plans to run. Naruto pulled the rest out, then watched as he suffocated to death. Naruto opened the door and walked out of the house with ki radiating off of him. I warned you to leave her alone, Sasuke. Now I will kill you. To be continued.